Hope you're doing well today. It is June 1st. Our reading today comes from the book of Proverbs. We're in Proverbs. Our reading today is actually chapters 17 through 19. Chapters 17 through 19. Let's see if I can get over there. We're going to be thinking about listening today. Sometimes people have the idea that we just need to be that being a good listener is just the best quality a person can have. I would suggest we need to, and what we're going to look at, we need to, like the Lord said, take heed how we hear, take heed what we hear, and we don't have to listen to everything. We should not listen to everything, actually. Proverbs 17, to just read a little bit, verse 4, an evildoer gives heed to false lips, and a liar listens eagerly to a spiteful tongue. Well, that's what a liar does. They listen eagerly to a spiteful tongue, and if we are listening eagerly to a spiteful tongue, it may say more about us than we would care to admit. And we should not give heed to false lips. Verse 7, excellent speech is not becoming to a fool, much less lying lips to a prince. Should a prince listen to liars? No. And a fool will not listen to excellent speech. A fool will listen to foolish speech. Verse 14, the beginning of strife is like releasing water. Therefore stop contention before quarrel starts. And we should not repeat the matter, says elsewhere. And so sometimes we'll hear things and we just have to say, nope, it stops with me. I'm not going to repeat that matter. We take heed what we hear as much as possible. And granted, it's like seeing things. Sometimes we will see things and we will hear things that we should not see and not hear. The question is, okay, now what do we do with that? Do we stop it or do we entertain it? And there are things we should not give heed to, that we should stop listening to. Now, back to our passage. Look down in chapter 18. In chapter 18 at verse 13, we have another aspect of our hearing. He who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. And so we do need to hear the whole matter, because what can happen often is when we first hear it, we're only getting one side of the coin. And that's verse 17. The first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him. And then all of a sudden you get the rest of the story. Okay, so we hear the whole matter, and we don't answer until we hear the whole matter. We don't give hasty judgment. We don't give hasty opinions. We need to hear the whole matter, and we need to hear the whole matter from all parties involved. Because if we're not, then we are not good listeners. We're very bad listeners, actually. Now we do need to listen, though. We do need to listen. We do need to take heed to instruction, to good and godly instruction. Earlier in the chapter, verse 1, a man who isolates himself seeks his own desire. He rages against all wise judgment. We shouldn't isolate ourselves. We need to listen. We need good counsel. We need godly counsel. But funny enough, not everybody who claims to be good and godly actually is good and godly. We have to compare it with God's word, and ultimately we have to let the Lord teach. But we should not isolate ourselves and be like the foolish farmer who said to himself, soul, you have many goods, right? He was isolating himself. He sought his own desire. Look down in chapter 19. Chapter 19 at verse 8, he who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will find good. A little bit later in chapter 19 at verse 20, listen to counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter days. There are many plans in a man's heart, nevertheless the Lord's counsel, that will stand. And that's ultimately what matters. And so the counsel we have in our life, they better be speaking the Lord's counsel, and they better be using the Bible, because ultimately that is God's wisdom. And so when people talk about, oh, I'm such a good listener, Well, what are you listening to? Garbage in, garbage out. So we have to be very, very careful what we say, what we hear. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you for studying along with us. We hope you join us for our next look into God's Word.